Welcome back. So, Steve asked if I had a how-to video on this saddle that I featured with the climbing rig in the last video. So, I'm not going to do a complete build on this. I'll go over the kind of the high points, and then if I have to, if there's a follow-up with some specific questions, and I'll address that there. So I used this type last season, and I've used some form of this for the past, I think, 4 seasons. It's I started with a single, what you would call a single panel, so it'd be maybe just this part or that part, with 10 what I'm calling stringers across this way. So there was 10 this way, and then there was either 5, or this one has a total of 7 across this way. But the version with 10 we tested to 2,900 pounds. And at 2,900 pounds, none of these cargo knots got so tight that I couldn't untie them by hand. So this particular saddle here has a total of 24 stringers, which going by this is, I use type 3 mil spec 550 paracord. It's not that you can't do it with other paracord, but the mil spec, they had to, it follows that type 3 specification where there's a 70% stretch before it breaks. It's minimum 550 pounds, which there's some other channels on YouTube where they go to like 800 pounds on 550 paracord. So, but 24 gets us over 13,000 pounds for this section of the saddle. Whatever rope we use for this is going to be maybe more of a limiting factor, but so I'll hit the high points on this. This is this one has 16 in the seat, and I've got 8 up here in the back band. And there's a gap where the hip, the way I use this, my hip joint falls between the two, so there's no hip pinch with this at all. And with 16 of these stringers, this is super comfortable. It's like sitting into a kind of a firm sponge. It's shocking how comfortable. Anyway, again, what I'm going to do is I'll show some of the knot tying in the board I have set up to help with that. And otherwise, there's not a whole lot to it other than kind of knowing the amounts of material you would need for the saddle based on how big your waist is and how much of how you want the bridge to fit. Now, I tighten my bridge when my saddle is on, and this is we'll look at the top one here. I've got this size such that when I have my hunting clothes on, these two ends will pull up to here, and it's not quite tight on my waist, but it won't fall down, and I can walk with it. So I make these saddles in halves. So here's the center line. I'll tie this half, and then I'll tie this half, and then I'll join them together in the middle, and I'll feed this. I may or may not tie it on this very bridge rope. This one's a 9mm HTP, and then over here, this one I've used for a few years now. This is 8mm Oplex. It's 24 total, but it's 12 and 12. So 12 in the seat and 12 in the back. But I think it's going to be a little more. This one's going to be more comfortable with more in the seat and fewer in the back. So you could start by deciding how. If you're going to wear this, you're going to want it to hold around the waist. But if you're not going to wear this in, you're going to put it on at the base of the tree. You could have the sling section of this longer, and the longer you have that, the longer it forms the bridge, and the less in the I should say, the wider it wraps around, like the part that wraps around your leg on the outside would stay wider this way, up and down. So, but when I take this around, I have, I'm probably at 34 to 36 waist, and then add hunting clothes, and like I said, I have this come around to here, and it's just snug enough not to fall down. The saddle is really light. It weighs maybe just over a pound. So when I do that, for me, these stringers end up starting with 6 foot long for this portion of the saddle. That works out. For this wider one, since these hitches move up the bridge line, we need the outer, or I should say the top and bottom. The top and bottom stringers to be longer to begin with. So where I start with the center pieces, the hitch closest to the sling, where I start there, for this one, there's 6 feet, and there's only 2 of these hitches on each side here. This is the distal hitch, and I'll show how to start that. But those are 6 feet. If I making this 8 stringer saddle, all the pieces on one side are 6 feet. There's 2 here and 2 here. That's 4. And that's repeated on the other side over here. 2 and 2 to make 4, and it's a total of, it gives you a total of 8 stringers. For the wider section here with 16 stringers, I'll have the center 8. We'll start with 72-inch long, and then add another, say, 2 or 3 inches to the next 2 and 2. And then the last 2 and 2, for a total of 16 total, I'll add another 2 to 3 inches. And then any excess, when they're ultimately joined and decide how, when they're joined in the center and you set them for how you like them, and then I I tie them with fisherman knot on either side of the cargo knots, the crown knots. Then I'll trim them and melt the ends. So I have this board laid out to help me hold things all together while I tie the saddle. And then I have a couple of you could use brazing wire or some kind of you could probably use a dowel, a small diameter dowel if you had to. But the way I have this set up right now is I'll start with something I'm going to use as a bridge rope, or size bigger maybe, because I pull the hitches off and just slide the new rope in. And then I'll have over here, I've got my 2 6-foot long pieces, and I'm going to tie a distal hitch. I'll even up the ends, and then I'll tie this distal hitch like this. So side by side. I'll come around 2 times like this, and then let's see, I got two, and then I'll come over the top and then through this way. And then I'll set it and dress it. Tighten it up. I know it's going to hold. And then I'll just tie an overhand knot in this rope. Put that knot and that notch there, and then I've got a starting point here, so I'll slide the bottom of this hitch to the starting point, and on this one it looks like about 8 inches from there to my first wire, and I'll lay these out like this. These are forming the inboard. When I add another 4, which is two strands, however long, will create 4 on each side. I'll tie that next distal hitch above, and then this bottom of this distal hitch can stay in the same place here, and that can vary. Before you commit to this, you can just tie it with the 4, wrap it around yourself, see if it's going to look like it's acceptable. If not, you can adjust this and then just mark your board. But so I have this here, and I'll take this wire, and I got some drywall screws, and I'll lay that in there like that. And then I've gone ahead and added another 4 stringers. So it's it'll be a closer example to the saddle I've got. And I'll lay these out in the order they come off of the hitches here, just to keep them neat. It doesn't really affect how it works, but it'll keep it a little neater. But once I got this here, I'm going to tie these crown knots along this wire, and I'll use the wire to tie that. And depending on how wide we want it, when using this 550 paracord, each knot takes an inch and a half of cord. So whatever length or width you have in inches, take each knot you're going to tie. So in this case, it would be 8. There's 4, 6, 8 times 1.5, and add that to the width you're going to want. So I'm going to tie 2 rungs for this demonstration. I've got 2 pieces of paracord, the same length. I just go with the same length all the way across. Even if it bunches up here more on the ends than it does in the middle, it doesn't matter. It works fine. But so I'll take one of these. I'll start at the top rung or stringer. I'm going to call these stringers, and these will be rungs this way. And I'll pull this over top like this. I'll have an overhand knot tied, and I'll lay this. I'll zoom in a little more. I'll start with this in on top of the wire. So all these run under this wire. I'll pull this over the top. I'll lay this in here, and I'll hold it. And I'll take the just the working end and pass it around and under the wire and the stringer. Re-aim a little bit. And then I'm going to come over the top of this and through this bite formed around the wire like that, and pull it down, and then while holding everything on here, I'm going to I'll pull this bite this way, and then I'll pull this one, the stringer, and then dress this knot up like that. So there's one. Then I'll come to the next one over, and that is coming off the outboard most, the next stringer. And I'll come over again. I'll pass this through, under, over the stringer, and through this bite here. Like this. And kind of get my spacing here, what I think I'm gonna want. They can always be these really don't get super tight. They always seem to have like the they don't seize. So that's tweaking this and balancing and kind of adjusting is kind of easy when you got a you come back later with make a little marlin spike. Let's see, find my marlin spike here. I made a marlin spike, unless you have one. I take a nail and taper it down and make sure it's not sharp or doesn't have a burr or anything that's going to damage the string. But so I'll tie that one like that, and then I'll come down to the next, and go around, take the top, come over the top, we come through this bite around the bottom over the stringer where the working end runs out, and then back through this bite. Like that. Conceivably, I could run wires this way and tie these, but then starts to dragging the cord between wires, and that may be a pain too. But on to the next one. Like that.